What's up, you guys? Stoopzz back in with another video, and today I'm finally reviewing the Mistweaver Monk for BFA. Alright, you guys, I'm back again with another video, and I finally got access to BFA Beta. I didn't get my own invite. Unfortunately, I wish I would have gotten my own invite or received my own invite, but I had to win one through a Swifty giveaway. So shout outs to Swifty for allowing me to enter that contest to earn or receive a BFA Beta invite. But that's another story for another day. I'm reviewing the Mistweaver Monk. I'll get straight to the point. For a lot of people at home, I know a lot of people are very impatient. Is Mistweaver Monk, when it comes to PvP at least, going to be a solid healer? And just by looking at it and putting in some test time, I'll save you guys the time if you just want to know the quick answer. The answer is not really. It doesn't look like it's going to be anything special. There are some significant changes to the class, but overall it feels very lackluster. And I know there's a ton of people out there right now that are saying, Stoopzz, it's still beta, it's still beta. We don't have our Azeroth armor, and that's true. There are some changes that I've seen when it comes to the Azeroth armor that are similar to, you know, our artifacts in Legion, our artifact weapons. There are some significant increases on some of our abilities. Maybe there's going to be one that allows us to channel Soothing Mist while moving, or maybe even there's some ones that will buff our other heals or our hots, and I'll show you some of the examples that they have been showing on Wowhead. But still, nonetheless, it's no longer beta. Like, this is still beta. This is alpha. We're like a couple months away from the release of this game. There's a ton of other classes that are going to require some redesign and some work, other aspects of the game that need to be developed, or just new things they're going to be implementing in the game. I don't think that Mistweaver is going to see anything too crazy, as they just saw a rework the other week. I don't think there's going to be anything too crazy that's going to make Mistweaver become the top healer or one of the best healers. I just think that we're getting too close to the release of the expansion, and that is not to say that they won't change anything after the release of BFA, but I don't see anything too significant that's going to happen before then. So just like all my other guides in the past, I'm in the same area as usual, but now I'm in a different expansion. I'll be going over our general talents, I'll go over our PvP talents and all the changes and new things they've added into this these talent rows, and I'll also just give you my general thoughts once again on why I think the Mistweaver is just going to be a lackluster healer, or just similar in terms of its rankings as before or currently in Legion. So when looking at these general talents, they look a lot different than we've seen in Legion, and even in the previous beta build. I'll probably show somewhere on the screen the current talent tree in Legion. I'll show you also on the screen here what they did at the start of alpha or beta, and then I'll show you what we have now, which is on the screen currently. So now hopping into the first row of our general talent, we have Mist Wrap, Chi Wave, and Chi Burst. However, Mist Wrap has been changed significantly, but it's still your preferred choice. So in Legion, and as in BFA, Mist Wrap increases the duration of your enveloping mist, one of your main healing spells, by 1 second, so the hot lasts 1 second longer. And on top of that, it increases the healing bonus of that spell by 10%. However, in Legion, it also allowed you to channel Soothing Mist while moving. Soothing Mist was one of your mechanics as a Mistweaver. Now, when you're using your Soothing Mist or channeling it, once you step or take a step any direction, it cancels the channel. So that is a pretty significant change when it comes to the Mistweaver class. As in Legion, we can move all over the place and continue to heal using Soothing Mist. You no longer can do that in Battle for Azeroth, and nowhere here or anywhere in your honor talents does it allow you to do so. However, Soothing Mist, or how it was perceived in your honor talents, Ancient Mistweaver Arts, is now baseline. So you can still use Soothing Mist. It's an active spell, and you can still instant cast your envelopings as well as your vivifies, which has now replaced Fuse, but I'll get to that in a little bit. Now for level 30, we have a very similar row as to what we have in Legion. We have Chi Torpedo, Tiger's Lust, and Celerity, but in a previous beta or alpha build, there was Tiger's Lust like somewhere down here, and we could spec into Chi Torpedo as well as Tiger's Lust, but that is no longer a thing anymore. It's still going to probably be Chi Torpedo is the go-to, maybe Tiger's Lust depending on your comp setup, but this is the same as what we have in Legion. However, for level 45, we have a different selection of talents here as to compared to what we have in Legion. In Legion, Manatee, I believe, is at the bottom the bottom row here, and now they moved it up to the level 45 with Life Cycles and Spirit of the Crane, and this makes a lot more sense. This is your mana preservation row, the ways you restore mana or reduce the amount of mana you spend when trying to heal. The go-to here, I believe now, is going to be Life Cycles. Life Cycles, it works really well because you're going to be weaving in and out of your Enveloping Mist and your Vivifies. Vivify is now your FUs, and a lot of the times when you are using your Enveloping Mist, you're probably casting a Vivify afterwards. So that's a great way to preserve your mana throughout the entirety of an arena match or a battleground, versus Mana Tea, which was your go-to in the past, but it's 50% of your mana cost for 12 seconds. So you're reducing the amount of mana you spend by 50% for 12 seconds, but it's on a 1.5 minute cooldown. So, and with the new build of Mistweaver, I just don't see Mana Tea being the go-to option. But this could be, this could change, or I could be wrong here. But these are just my general thoughts after testing out the class for a little bit. It seems like Life Cycles is going to be the go-to. Enveloping Mist reduces the mana cost of your next Vivify by 25%, and Vivify does the same thing for Enveloping Mist. So if you weave them, in and out, then you will be preserving 25% of your mana on almost every heal that you use, or your main healing abilities. Now for level 60, there's some changes here. We have Tiger Tail Sweep, which there has been a change to Leg Sweep. Leg Sweep now has a 1 minute cooldown, and it only stuns for 3 seconds with an enemy's AV 5-yard radius. So that is a little bit of a nerf here, but Tiger Tail Sweep increases the range of your leg sweep by 2 yards and reduces its cooldown by 10 seconds. So it's still a nerf even after you spec into the talent. So in my mind, I don't think that's going to be the go-to option anymore. They also changed Paralysis, which was your other CC in the past. It was like your end cap. It was an instant CC ability that would DR with like polymorphs and stuff like that. It was very frustrating for a lot of players whether fighting against a Windwalker monk or a Mistweaver monk. They could keep interrupting your heals or your cast, or just keep CCing you, or just kind of cutting you out of the fight very frequently. I think it's a 15-second cooldown currently in Legion, and now we have a 45-second cooldown. So that is kind of a nerf or a change. But with that change, you can't really get that consistent Paralysis leg sweep combo. I mean, you can. I think just going with Song of Chi-Ji or Ring of Peace is the better option. Honestly, I'm going to mess around with both of these. You know what Ring of Peace is. We've seen it on live. It summons this giant ring and it knocks all enemies out of that ring if they step into it, so you can protect yourself or your allies, and it's on a 45-second cooldown. And then Song of Chi-Ji is that same ability that we've seen in the past. It just summons this giant fart cloud that goes off into the distance 40 yards. It's on a 30-second cooldown with a 1.6-second cast, and it puts enemies to sleep. So it is kind of good in PvP, but it's hard to get off, and even in Legion, it's really hard to get off. But if you can catch somebody in it, or you can end cap them and then put them to sleep, or your allies have something to chain off of it or help you set it up, then it is really good. Ring of Peace will probably be your go-to, but you can try out both these talents. The only reason why we never saw too much use of Song of Chi-Ji and then even Ring of Peace, unless it was on a certain map inside the arena or for rated battlegrounds, was because leg sweep used to be an option. It was one of these talent choices, but now it's baseline, but it's a nerfed baseline talent, or it's a changed baseline talent or ability. So it's no longer one that you would spec into. So now you can mess around with Song of Chi-Ji a little bit more, and you can use Ring of Peace a lot more often. So that is a kind of nice change to the class, but nothing game changing, nothing that's going to be, making this class extremely superior to the other healing classes. It's just a noticeable change. We also have level 75 with Healing Elixir, Diffuse Magic, and Dampen Harm. And I believe in this row before, in the previous beta build or alpha build, I'm so tired of calling them or differentiating them between beta and alpha, but there was Tiger's Lust was down here, and I think like one of these other abilities are somewhere else. So you could choose between Tiger's Lust for extra mobility or Healing Elixir, but I feel like Blizzard thought that is too much mobility. We can't give them Chi Torpedo and Tiger's Lust. So still here, you're going to be speccing into Healing Elixir just like you would in Legion. It still heals you for 15% of your max health. It still has a 30-second recharge, and you still get 2 charges of that ability, and it still triggers when you fall below 35% health. So Healing Elixir is still going to be your go-to. I wish they would have reorganized these or changed some of these options. Maybe they messed with Diffuse Magic. I still find Healing Elixir to be a much more effective talent choice. For level 90, everything is still the same. You still have your statue. You can still spec into Rushing Jade Wind if you want, and you can still spec into Chi-Ji the Red Crane. However, they did put a like 1.5 second global cooldown on Invoke Chi-Ji. That's probably more for raiding. I mean, I don't see that making a massive difference in PvP. However, I will say the global cooldowns do feel a little clunky, once again, especially with the Mistweaver, but I still think the go-to is going to be your Jade Serpent statue. I know they did nerf the amount of healing it does, and you know, you can't move while channeling Soothing Mist, but it seems like the statue will still heal you even after you stop your channel. So once I stop the channel, the statue is still healing me, whereas in Legion they were trying to fix that. So there's my phone, but all these talents are still the same, so we can figure out which one's better than the other as we get closer to the live version of the game. Now for level 100, there are some changes here and some new ones that we haven't seen in the past. We have Upwelling, which just seems to be more of a PvE talent. For every 6 seconds, Essence Font, yes, Essence Font, which was never used really in PvP, spends off cooldown. Your next Essence Font may be channeled for 1 second longer, and the duration of Essence Font heals over time is increased by 4 seconds. So it seems to be more of a raid talent. That doesn't seem to be anything that's huge for PvP. We also have Focus Thunder, which is the same as it is in Legion. You get 2 charges on your Thunder Focus T. However, Thunder's Focus T has been completely changed, and I'll get to that in a second. And then we have a new talent here called Rising Mist. Rising Sun Kick heals all allies with your Renewing Mist, Enveloping Mist, or Essence Font for 228 and extends those effects by 2 seconds. So I think that most likely this is going to be the go-to version. This is going to be the go-to talent here. Focus Thunder might be used if you are trying to play more of a ranged healing spec, if you're not into the melee build version of the Mistweaver. I still think if you do play the ranged version, you're probably going to very fast, and it does seem like they want, in order to preserve your mana, you're going to have to be speccing into some of these specific talents. So this is an interesting mechanic here. Basically, if you have Enveloping Mist on yourself, or if you have a Renewing Mist on yourself and you Rising Sun Kick this target, it's going to extend, and Rising Sun Kick is still very glitchy. I just did it and it didn't go off. Let's try that again. If I have Enveloping Mist on myself right here and I Rising Sun Kick the target, it extends the duration there at the top by 2 additional seconds, which is very nice. Now, Focus Thunder I talked about a second ago. It empowers your next 2 spells, so you get 2 charges consecutively on your Thunder Focus T, which as in before we used to have like 2 instant cast envelopings. If you spec'd into this, you'd have, but you'd be able to spread your Renewing Mist on additional targets. You get 2 empowered F-uses, which is now known or titled Vivify. We had a lot of unique things there, but now they've completely changed Thunder Focus T, so it still empowers your abilities. However, the way it empowers them is completely different. Enveloping Mist immediately heals a target for 1,333. Now, granted, I'm level 110 here, but in Legion, it made your Enveloping Mist an instant cast, which was really good for that Wave the Crane build. And we used to have Rising Thunder, and that is no longer a thing here. They don't want your Rising Sun Kick to, you know, reset your Thunder Focus T to give you an instant enveloping, it seems like. So if you do use your Thunder Focus T, it's just going to immediately heal the target for an additional 1,333, which is still pretty decent, but it's a different change completely. We also have Renewing Mist, whereas in Legion, it would allow you, and maybe I'll show something here on the screen, it would allow you to spread your Renewing Mist or cast it an additional time on an ally, and now it increases the duration of Renewing Mist by an additional 10 seconds. So that's still pretty good, I guess, but not as good as it was before. Vivify is still no mana cost, which is how it is in Legion, but now Vivify is your main F-use heal. It's your main single target heal on top of Enveloping Mist, so that is a pretty decent change. I like that one. I'm glad they kept it the same. Vivify is going to be very, very strong, and I'll get to that a little bit later in BFA, it looks like. And then they added this one in over the Essence Font version of it. Rising Sun Kick, when you have Thunder Focus T active, its cooldown will be reduced by 9 seconds. So with Rising Mist, that is pretty nice. So for example, if I have an Enveloping Mist on myself, and then I use my Thunder Focus T and I Rising Sun Kick, it's going to come off on cooldown in time for me to do it again and extend, there's my phone again, extend the duration of my Enveloping Mist by a total of 4 seconds. So that's going to be a great way to preserve your HOTS, but also a great way to preserve mana. You're not going to be using your Enveloping Mist as much. you're going to be able to maintain your HOTS a lot longer. It may, in turn, allow your renewing mists to spread. It may allow a lot of scenarios where you can keep up your HOTS on multiple targets a lot longer. So, additionally, also, every time you Rising Sun kick with Rising Mist, you're going to heal them for extra because of the talent itself. It heals for the envelopings and the renewing mist on your targets every time you Rising Sun kick. So that is a nice change. I still think this will be the go-to. This row is interesting, but it still feels, in my mind, not as solid as the Legion talents did. All right, now we head into the new section of BFA, the section that wasn't there previously. We didn't have our honor talents, and now we do. We have the new PvP talent system, and we have technically 4 choices here. For the first row, you get to choose any of these 3. Obviously, Gladiator's Medallion is probably going to be your go-to, especially now that Relentless doesn't stack with Orcs, and, you know, Gladiator's Medallion will probably be your go-to here. And then we have 3 options, but you can choose any of your talent options. So even though there's 3 brackets here, there's 3 slots, you can put any combination you like. Now, they took out some things that used to be there. We don't have Surge of Mist anymore. We don't have Ancient Mistweaver Arts because Soothing Mist is now baseline. And we have this thing called Surging Mist, which people were hyping up quite a bit. They were saying Surging Mist was really overpowered or was really strong. I don't see in any way, shape, or form why this is a good talent option at all. It heals a target for 125 and increases the healing they take from Surging Mist by 50% for 6 seconds, stacking up to 2 times. So in a way, what this is a way to, what's that talent called? Fortune Turned. It was called Fortune Turned, and it was basically a spell or a talent choice that you would take. It wasn't a spell, it was a talent choice that would buff the healing of your next FUs by 50%, and it stacked up to 2 times. So you could get some, 100% increased FUs, but now we have Surging Mist, which is essentially just a way to replace that. But the healing on that just seems very, very weak, even though it stacks up to 2 times. It's only 50%, whereas Vivify just heals for an absurd amount. So obviously there is some tuning changes that need to take place, but currently, right now on this build, I don't see this talent choice being anywhere near just as effective. Vivify just heals for such an absurd amount right now. I mean, Vivify heals for like a Shayloon's Gift. If you've seen that in Legion, or if you've played during Legion, Vivify heals for an absurd amount. So maybe with some tuning changes, Surging Mist will be a good option here. But I just, and it is instant castable. You can use your Soothing Mist and instant cast Surging Mist, even though it doesn't say it in the tooltip here on Soothing Mist. Nevertheless, I just don't think it's a good talent option. It's very clunky. It doesn't make sense. Vivify does the same thing as that talent. It does save you some mana, but you are going to be speccing into different talents, and you're going to be healing with Wave the Crane here. So, spec I came up with here is Wave the Crane as your first talent option. You also have Counteract Magic, which is the same as before. You can spec into Dome of Mist if you're worried about being purged. You can spec into Healing Spheres if you want. Any of these can be changed, I think, if whatever your personal playstyle is or the comp that you're fighting. So Counteract Magic could be one, but remember, you can't spread Renewing Mist as often. So to take advantage of Counteract Magic, Renewing Mist heals a target for 135% more when they are affected by magical damage over time effects. So this dot essentially right here will heal 135% more if the person has a dot on them. But before in Legion, you could spread them all over the place so easily, and it's not going to be as easy in BFA. So you could spec into Dome of Mist. You can spec into Chrysalis. Chrysalis reduces the cooldown on your Cocoon. Cocoon is now a 2-minute cooldown versus in Legion a 3-minute cooldown. In Legion, it's a 3-minute cooldown. They reduced it to 2, but they nerfed the amount of time, the cooldown reduction on Chrysalis. So in Legion, Chrysalis reduces the cooldown of Life Cocoon by 90 seconds or half. Now it's 30 seconds, but it ends up being the same exact thing. So you can spec into this if you like. The big game changer here is going to be Wave the Crane, which is the same as it is in Legion. However, it no longer breaks you out of stuns. It only breaks you out of snare and root effects, but it will not break you out of stuns anymore. However, BFA is not as stun heavy as in Legion, so it might not make as big of a difference. I didn't notice it so far. I mean, obviously it's early in beta, we're getting close to the end of beta now almost, but I haven't noticed it being too big of a deal. However, it does heal you for 200% of all damage done, whereas like in Legion, it's like they've nerfed it down. I think it's like under 175%. So it heals for quite a bit. It's a 1 minute cooldown and it only costs 5,000 mana, which, you know, it's a hefty chunk, but it still heals for a lot. And with the build you're going to be having here, you're going to be saving a lot of mana. Now, the big game changer here, and the way Mistweaver in my mind is really going to revolve around, is Refreshing Breeze. And almost like your whole toolkit once again is going to be this multiplicative, like percentage based thing, just how it is in Legion. So Refreshing Breeze in Legion was not that impressive at all. Refreshing Breeze buffed your Vivify by 20%, and Vivify refreshed the duration of your Essence fonts on targets. Now, you're probably going to be using Essence font a little bit, but on top of that, Vivify is now FUs. So 20% buff on FUs is quite a bit. Now, Vivify, if you want me to read it to you, it causes a surge of, you know, invigorating mist, healing the primary target for a certain amount, and then it also heals all allies that have renewing mist on them, your one of the hots that you throw around, by an additional amount of healing. It says 320 here, but that doesn't really matter. So it heals, it's an AoE heal, but also a single target heal. But now, BFA, it's going to be buffing Vivify by 20%, and Vivify is one of your main healing abilities now, where it wasn't so much in Legion when it comes to arenas. In Battlegrounds, sure, but even then, not as much. Whereas in Legion, whereas in BFA, it's going to be one of your main abilities that are going to be used in terms of healing. On top of that, there was a baked-in mechanic that we had in Legion where when your Renewing Mist healed a target, it had a 4% chance to proc your Vivify. Your next Vivify would see increased healing by 40%. So again, in Legion, this was great for like raiding. This was great for a lot of things. But in BFA, Vivify is your main heal. So if you are getting Refreshing Breeze, which increases your healing of your Vivify by 20%, and then you also have this Renewing Mist baked in mechanic that increases your next Vivify by 40%, that's a lot of additional healing for a single target splash heal. You can see it just procced right there. It's glowing. Now this would heal for a lot more than it normally would because I procced it off my Renewing Mist. Now keep in mind though, that is probably why they changed. You know, your Thunder Focus Tea not allowing you to spread your Renewing Mist so easily. You will not be able to spread Renewing Mist like you were able to before for a lot of reasons, just based on this toolkit. They probably don't want you spreading and proccing your Vivify so often because it's going to heal for a lot almost all the time, because you get that proc so easily when you are spreading Renewing Mist all over the place. So that's probably why they had this change here. This is also probably why they changed your cooldown reduction on Rising Sun Kick because of Rising Mist. There's a lot of changes here that make sense, and it seems like this is the build you're going to go. You're going to have Refreshing Breeze, Rising Mist, Wave the Crane most likely, just because you want to proc your passive. Your damage weakens the target, increasing physical damage taken by 5%. So not only does it help you, but it helps your allies, which is why I think Mistweavers are going to be paired up again with a bunch of melee comps like, you know, Turbo or TSG, and a lot of the same comps that we see in Legion, and that works really well with Wave the Crane and Rising Mist. You're going to have to be Rising Sun Kick, using your Rising Sun Kick off cooldown to refresh your HOTS. You also want to make sure you keep up your Mystic Touch buff right here for your allies. It seems like even though the toolkit has changed, it's going to be very similar to Legion, but just not as effective. I mean, I just feel like Wave the Crane now is so strong in Legion, and I just see this toolkit, although it's kind of unique, the global cooldown feels very clunky. You can't channel Soothing Mist while moving. You can't reset your Rising Sun Kick or your Thunder Focus Tea using Rising Sun Kick with your old talents like you can in Legion. Although Vivify is completely busted right now. I mean, I'll probably show you a little bit of some footage here of me playing an arena match. My Vivify heals me for quite a bit, and you can also see that I did a significant amount of damage during the arena match, and I also out healed the enemy healer. However, with that being said, you guys, and going over this talent build, this might not be the most optimal talent build. You know, obviously there might be some changes and I might discover more things along the way. Mistweaver still feels like a lackluster healer. It just feels not as powerful when compared to the other healers. I'm not saying Mistweaver will not be relevant at all. I'm sure it's still going to be the preferred healer for a lot of melee comps. Now keep in mind, DKs are also getting a purge ability, which I complained about in the past Mistweavers not having. Demon Hunters are also getting a purge ability on a short cooldown, which is a class that you will see probably accompanied with Mistweavers. I made a video in the past, this class needs to be reworked, and they did kind of rework Mistweavers. They are a lot different in some ways than they are now in Legion, but these are not the changes I was hoping for. I was hoping for some type of purge ability. I know BFA is getting very purge heavy, and maybe now with Demon Hunters and DKs having a purge ability, maybe Mistweavers won't need it as much, but it just still feels, in terms of PvP, okay, this is all a PvP perspective, like a very limited healer. It can only be probably used in a selective amount of comps. I still don't see any ally damage reduction like other healers have. I still don't see any absorptions. It's all healing based. Even though it might be a little bit more mana efficient, our CC still seems very like clunky, and then now even so much more unreliable because you're going to be using, your little fart cloud ability that you send out, and you have your leg sweep on a longer cooldown, and you have your paralysis on a longer cooldown. I just feel like they've reworked the class a couple times during the alpha and beta phase. I don't think Blizzard 100% knows what they want to do with Mistweavers, and it's unfortunate for me. So if you're asking me my opinion, I'll still mess around with the Mistweaver. I'll still make videos on it. I'll still make guides on it, but it's not going to be the healer that I spend all of my time into. I already did that for Legion, and I was a little disappointed. The nerfs that I saw along the way my class wasn't updated, and I felt like treated fairly when compared to all the other just amazing healers out there when it comes to Discipline Priests and Holy Paladins and even Resto Shamans. So overall, I'm not too impressed with the class, but it still seems like a kind of fun healer and probably the preferred healer for a lot of melee cleaves. So that's going to do for this video, you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to give the video a thumbs up. If you guys have any questions or you guys want me to cover any healers or any other classes on the BFA beta, be sure to let me know in the comment section below. Try to miss me on my live stream where I answer all of your guys' questions in depth. Do not forget to subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.